Hello, welcome to Once Upon a Surgery. I'm your host, Carrie Burlett. This is a show where real people share their real life transformations. These stories start with a scalpel, but they never end there. Today, I'm going to share my own story about my own procedures and surgeries that I've had since knowing Dr. Burlett. Each story, you don't think about plastic surgery, the impact that it has. It's not just a physical cosmetic change, but a lot of times it's really an emotional change, and it impacts people's confidence and really it's transforming. And so again, being his wife, I just am constantly exposed to these stories, and he kind of really hasn't documented them. And I just find they're so special. And so that sort of got my wheels turning, and that coupled with the fact that Dr. Burlett, surprisingly, a lot of people don't believe me, but this is actually true, is obsessed with the Hallmark Channel. And literally, he loves those predictable, happy ending stories. He cries at the end of each episode. I'm not joking. And if the one starts, and he's 5 minutes in, I just spilled the tea as I'm spilling the tea, actually. But as once one starts, we can't leave the house because he's so excited for the next episode. And I thought that's actually has a direct parallel to his life. He's literally creating his own little predictable, happy ending Hallmark story with each of his patients. And I find it so inspiring. And I thought that the world would be interested in hearing some of these stories. And I think a lot of the patients that he has are truly excited to share their stories. And so I welcome you to Once Upon a Surgery. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. And I actually have my own story, and I'm gonna share next the procedures that I've had done and the surgeries that I've done with Dr. Burlett, and how they've changed my life too. So I'm 50, just throwing that out there. And I'm gonna talk about all the work that I've had done. And I still have more work to come, I know, in my future, but I'm happy with where I am right now. And the first basic maintenance that I do is Botox. And I do that about every 3 months. And it's just really, above my eyebrows and, the crow's feet. And it just keeps me, natural, refreshed. It's not like the Botox. I remember when it first came out, and I was kind of judgy of the people that were doing it, and they would have these frozen faces. But Dr. Burlett has a very, artistic procedure, his process. He has it down to an art, obviously, and he is actually an artist. He was an architecture major. But it's very, simple. My face still moves, and I love it. And I can tell. It's funny. Sometimes he'll come home. Oh, you need Botox. He notices. But it's basically just keeps your face so you don't get all those lines. And I know 20-year-olds right now are doing it preventatively, so their face never moves. I didn't start doing it till I was, I think, 38. And now it's just part of my regular maintenance. So the next procedure I want to talk about is something called fat grafting. And that is a process where Dr. Burlett takes my own fat, yes, my own fat. He usually takes it from my back, usually. I've done this 3 times now, actually. And he takes the fat from my back, and then he spins it into something that he calls macro, micro, and nano fat. And basically, then he has this, perfectly spun, little fat that he then injects into my temples and my cheeks. And that actually is amazing. The stem cells and exosomes from this then cause this, they regenerate, and they give your skin this actually natural glow. And you can see, basically, since he did that, it basically gave me volume in my cheeks. And really almost immediately, I had these kind of bags under my eyes that basically disappeared. And prior to doing this, before I even met Dr. Burlett, I had done a little bit of Juvederm, which I basically would inject my smile lines with. And then since he put this fat in my face, I actually haven't needed to do the Juvederm. And it's more natural. You keep, a lot, I think it's about 60 to 70%. He would have to tell you for sure. But yeah, it does stay. And he's actually perfected that procedure since he first did that with me. So I think I first did that maybe 4 years ago. And then he's kind of done a little more since when I needed tweaks, because, not everything is, perfect right away. Like we just noticed a couple things we wanted to adjust, and it's amazing now. And he's also done this, with my friends, and it just keeps getting better and better. And that's one of my favorite things, I have to say, that I've had done. It really, if you look, he says you start losing volume in your 30s. And so that really, if you have that type of face, not everyone, this is not for everyone, but for me, just how I've aged, that was a huge change. The next procedure I want to talk about is something called upper blepharoplasty. And that just means getting your upper eyelids done. And basically, this is something a lot of people do in their 40s, some 50s, but that's the typical age range. And for me, I had noticed I had like drooping, kind of saggy eyelids. I couldn't really open my eyes the whole way. And so then he just basically makes an incision and, gets rid of the fat pad and lifts your eyes. And I've been very happy with that result. The procedure, you're not under, you're awake during it. And you are bruised after. So you want to do it during a time when you can wear sunglasses, probably. It varies the patient, because I know people that, barely bruised, right? I was pretty bruised. It depends on kind of your skin. But within 2 weeks, then you're pretty good to go. And that really made a difference for me, I felt, in giving me more youthful looking eyes. So one more thing I just wanted to add, I only had my upper eyelids done. Often people do both at once. I didn't actually need the lowers, and I credit the fat grafting for why I didn't, but it all depends on your face, because not everyone's a candidate for fat grafting. But for me, at this point, I keep asking Tony, do I need to do the lowers? And he says no, but at this point I've only done the upper eyelids. So the next procedure I want to talk about is liposuction. And I know it's surprising, and I don't have body dysmorphia, and I know I'm thin, but I have had liposuction actually 2 times. And I'm gonna tell you about it. And this is actually one of Dr. Burlett's favorite things. He calls it skinny liposuction. And usually when you hear the word liposuction, you're thinking about a heavier person, right? Who needs their fat reduced. But actually when you're skinnier, you can really use it to, for contouring, to contour your body. And so I've had it done, even though I'm thin, the place where my weight gathers has always been around my waist. And so I'm what I like to say an apple shape. And so I really, obviously I didn't have a huge belly, but I just that was where I didn't have definition. I didn't have a waist. And that has really made a difference. And particularly that area, he calls it the flanks. I call it the muffin top, your love handles, that area. I mean, there's just no exercise. And I've been doing core exercises, my whole life, every day pretty much. And there's just nothing that you can do like liposuction. And that really made such a difference. And it also, around my middle. So that was the first place. And then the second place, and this is just, because he's the master, I would never have thought to do this because I have very skinny legs, but he actually took some fat, he did some liposuction on my outer thighs, and that kind of served to make my butt pop. So I guess basically it gave it more of a contrast, I guess, between my leg and my butt. And so that was, it's not what you think of, but that's also a favorite procedure. I guess I've loved all of them, but really I think that has given me such confidence. For me, I know it's a very subtle difference. Obviously, did it really change my life that much? But it kind of did, I guess, with my confidence, just having this waist and just in a swimsuit, because I kind of just went straight down before, and there was all this kind of fat gathered around my waist, and now it has this beautiful curve that never in my life did I have, no matter how skinny I was, that just didn't exist just based on my body. And so this is a way to actually directly, kind of change your body contour. The last procedure I want to talk about is something called miraDry. And essentially with miraDry, that has to do with your armpits. And I may not look like I would be a stinky person, but I actually legitimately was. To the point, I remember my sister being in my closet looking to pick something out, and she was like, oh, what kind of deodorant do you use? And I was like, I use Secret. And she was like, maybe you should use one that's not so secret. So anyway, you know, and I would wear deodorant, but it just, I don't know, I'm just a sweaty person. And so this is something where literally Dr. Burlette kind of cooks your armpits. And, you know, it's this thing where they're kind of doing this, you know, procedure, it feels warm. And afterwards, I mean, I actually went to a wedding, I think the night after I did this. It's a weird sensation. It feels like you have kind of oranges under your armpits. I know, very strange. But then after that, basically, then you don't sweat. You don't sweat, and you don't grow hair, and you don't smell. So you don't have to use deodorant anymore. And I mean, you can grow a little tiny hair, so it's like maybe, you know, once a month, just check that you don't have some like, you know, long hair that made its way out. But that was really transformational. The fact that I don't even have to think about deodorant anymore. It's, you know, whereas before it was like I had to have it with me at all times. And so that was something that was truly amazing that you don't really think about, and is very easy. And there's, you know, really very little downtime. You just have a day where you feel like you have oranges under your armpits. But so anyway, I wanted to share that last little procedure. And I hope you enjoyed hearing about my own personal story, both with Dr. Burlette and the work that I've had done. And I'm sure there's more to come, by the way. And, you know, please feel free, write questions, write comments. I'd love to hear what else you're interested in hearing about. And don't forget to subscribe to Once Upon a Surgery.